Welcome back. That was a wonderful film. So for those of you just joining us online, we just finished watching the documentary film Mexico Pelagico. And tonight we have some very special guests joining us to do some questions and answers about the film, our filmmakers and some shark conservationists. The film shows how a group of friends who had come together to watch marine life in the pelagic ocean learned something that they didn't expect to learn. And ultimately, they learned that we need to protect the animals that are out in the ocean. And they took action. They didn't just stop there. And one of the actions they took was, of course, making this film. And tonight we'll hear more some of the other things that they've done to take action as well. Sharks are pretty fascinating creatures. They've been around a long time. They always have new teeth coming in, so they don't need to worry about a dentist. They're top predators in our oceans, and yet shark populations are declining around the world. So do we have a love or hate relationship with these animals? Are they ecologically critical to keep alive, or are they a resource to be exploited? Our speakers tonight, we have Russell Hennessey from Saving Our Sharks. We have Rodrigo Friscione from Pelagic Life, and Jorge Hauser, also from Pelagic Life. And those last two names were also folks that you saw in our film today. So I'd like to go ahead and invite you to come on up to our panelist table, please, and we will go ahead and get started. And if you want to give them a round of applause, these are the folks that put together the film and are saving sharks in Mexico today. We need some house lights. Can you get house lights? We'll get some lights on you here in just a moment. Can you turn off the projector? Okay, so we're going to get started. I want to ask a few questions to get things started, and then we'll ask you. We'll see if you have some questions you'd like to ask here in just a moment. So, if you could, please, each of you, just take a moment to tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Is this working? Testing. That's as loud as I've heard my voice in a while. Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Russ Hennessey with Saving Our Sharks. I'm a founding partner. I will mention that Rodrigo is also a founding partner of Saving Our Sharks. Our job is to design evidence-based conservation strategies for the shark populations in Mexico, in the Mexican Caribbean to be precise. That's a bunch of words. What it means is that we're working with the government of Mexico to understand and study through scientific research the shark populations, find out how to design strategies to conserve them and to protect them, while at the same time, and I think an underlying theme you saw from this movie, is looking at all of the stakeholders who are involved. It's not just us yelling at the fishermen going, "You're bad guys, let's save sharks." We had to look very carefully at the ecosystem, the economy, the culture. There was a bunch of issues. And so really our goal is to work in the area of Playa del Carmen to conserve and protect sharks throughout the Mexican Caribbean.
Well, I'm Jorge. I'm the producer of the films. Thanks everyone for being here. It's a funny thing, a funny story behind this film, because we started making it without even knowing we were making a documentary. In fact, Pelagic Life started as a group of friends that we all come from different backgrounds. We're like, Rodrigo, he's a diving operator in Cancun. We have lawyers, we have business people. I'm an advertising producer. And the one thing we have in common is that we all share a deep love for the ocean. So Pelagic Life started exploring, like a group of friends exploring the open ocean without knowing what we were going to find. And then we started finding some pretty amazing stuff, and we went from exploring to documenting. And then we ran into a shark fishing operation, and we went from documenting to conservation. And I think what we can all take from this film and from our story is that if we love something, we can all do something about it. So we're just average Joes out there in the ocean that happen to meet some really amazing people, because the fishermen, they're not the bad guys. They live in really harsh conditions. It's the only thing they know how to do. They've been doing it for generations. It's a dangerous, it's a risky job, and it's their only way to put food on the table. And what we try to do is to help them do that one thing they know how to do and focus it to a sustainable economic alternative to a new activity they can do, and that protects sharks, and in result it becomes into a better lifestyle for them. So that's what we are doing there in Baja. Also, Rodrigo, he's one of the founding members of Pelagic Life.
Thank you. Thanks again for having us. Yeah, well, as Jorge was saying, I'm one of the founding members of Pelagic Life. It started as a group of friends. Now we've gathered more friends around us, and we're doing this kind of thing, and we're trying to reach as many people as possible to not only join us or help us, but to develop your own projects in whatever part of the world you're at.
All right, great. Thank you very much. What's great is that you're actually out there, you're working with the fishermen, and you're helping them find a sustainable alternative ecologically and economically. It's been mentioned in the media recently that sharks should be cleared of areas where people are in the water. What's your response to that?
Well, to begin with, I think it's their home, and they have the right to be there. And if we're gonna go out surfing in areas where we know there are tiger sharks or great white sharks, and we're gonna dress up as seals, well, we have to know the risks. We have to know there are predators out there, and that we're pretty much disguising ourselves as food. And even then that we're doing that, the amount of attacks and the amount of deaths every year by sharks is minimum. I mean, more people get killed every year by coconuts falling over their heads, or by falling out of bed, or by vending machines, or by domestic dogs, or pigs, or deer. So sharks are not as stupid as we might think. Yeah, they're like the perfect predator, but they're also smart, and they know we're not food. So I would take different measures, as in having people monitoring the beaches and letting us know when there are sharks spotted in the area, and then the wisest thing would be not to go into the water, and that's it. I don't know if any of you guys want to add something.
I'll make a simple comment, and maybe for the adults here. Tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of like beating your child before they go to school because you think they're going to do something wrong. You can't punish all of the sharks for an incident that occurred where you don't necessarily know the circumstances or the reasons why. And unfortunately, in these cull-type situations, it's a punish-all scenario. There is no discretion there. When they do a call, they take everything, and it's not necessarily, and if we're talking about Australia in particular, I think through some of the results of their initial cull work that they did, they weren't even catching great white sharks on the lines. They were catching sharks that were not involved in any of the incidents. We were talking, bull sharks, tiger sharks, obviously sharks that were not the ones they were hunting for. So it's very indiscriminate. It's really not a good approach.
I'll make sure that I'm very careful the next time I go to the vending machine. Okay, tell us about the moment that changed the way you feel about sharks today. If you can, just describe it as much as you can.
I think the pivotal moment was when we released the very first shark. During the way you saw it is the way it happened. We didn't plan the documentary; it just happened that way during a trip. And the moment we released the first one, we knew we could do something about it. We could make a difference, even if it was a small one. But it was a difference that could reach a lot of people. It was very emotional. It was very passionate for everyone, but it was also very long-lasting. And we still have that motivation and that idea that we can actually make a difference with a very small thing.
Yeah, I think for me, I was always fascinated by sharks since I was a little kid. And then, but the very first time you actually see a shark underwater, your whole idea of a shark changes. In my case, I was diving in Belize, and we were looking for whale sharks in the open ocean. We were out in the blue. And then this very large gray reef shark, we started looking at this silhouette, like going with the tail like this, and then the whole group started getting together and closer and closer and closer. And at that time, my response to that shark was to get away from the group and swim closer to the shark. Obviously, I scared the shark, and the shark went away. But I think that was a decisive moment for myself. That's when I knew that this animal that I had always admired and really liked, I realized it wasn't like an automatic killing machine, and it wasn't bad at all. It was a beautiful, sexy, smooth swimming animal. And that's when I decided I needed to have more encounters like that one and to try to protect the sharks.
And I guess for me, if I look back to my earliest childhood, my dad used to be a tuna fisherman in California. And so from as early as I can remember, we had a blue shark frozen in our freezer in the garage. And I would scare the poop out of my neighbor's kids. I would bring them over and come look at the shark. And we'd sit there and play with this thing. Fast forward 20 years, 25 years, I'm in Thailand and I'm snorkeling, and all of a sudden something's yanking on my fin and pulling me through the water. Look around, it's a shark. He's got my fin and he's off. So the first one was, when I was a very young child, was wow. The second one was, oh wow. The third one happened a little later, and that's when I actually managed to, as Jorge mentioned, engage and swim with sharks in the open ocean. And to see them, at first your skin is up, your fur is up, everything is up, and then you realize that it's not just coming to get you. It's not Jaws again. It's not a television show. This is real life. And I'll tell you, the last step was, I sat in a smaller room, but very similar to you folks here tonight. And what changed me from being passive to active was watching a movie. I watched a shark documentary. I sat there, I yelled at the screen afterwards with my friends. We cried. We had a shot of tequila. The next morning, we started writing notes. And within a couple of months, we were sitting in front of the Mexican government in Cancun, and we were asking them what we can do to protect sharks. So it was a progression from some amazement, some wonder, and then something, excuse my French, but it got me really, really mad, and I would use the P word, but I'm not gonna. But basically that drove us to take action.
And I'd actually like to add my story here too. I was fairly recently, actually, I was about 15 years old, and I was snorkeling for the first time in Molokini Crater in Hawaii, and I looked down at the bottom, I saw a white-tipped reef shark, and I was just mesmerized, and all the memories I had of my sister, who's 5 years older than me, throwing the rubber great white shark into my bubble bath when I was 5, and me being afraid of it, all just kind of went right out of my head. It was a really amazing experience. Can you tell us a little bit about the fishermen in the film? What do they have? How have their lives changed, and what are they doing today?
That's an excellent question and an excellent topic, because the people we dealt with, the fishermen, which are usually portrayed or treated as the bad guys, they're really sweet, really mellow people. They really love the ocean and they love sharks in their own way. They have a very close relationship with them. It might not be ideal or our ideal of a close relationship, but they're really close to them. They know them, and as we got close to them, as they started letting us into their circle, we could tell the change as they saw us go in the water and speak about sharks differently than just gathering them, but knowing the different species and what time they migrated and what kind of shark we wanted to see specifically, and they getting excited because they knew where they could find it for us and at what time, and they started, the love started growing in them. Also, on the other hand, they realized they had a great business opportunity at hand that as the shark fisheries went down in the town, the shark tourism was and is still growing for them. So they were two times excited, you know, for two reasons. And it was, well, it's been a very, very close relationship. I would like to say that we're very close friends now with them. We call each other every other time. We're there at least once a month, if not everyone in the team, but at least one person goes to them and is there and is going out with them and it's teaching them about tourism and they're teaching us about the sharks. And it's been a very nice development in our relationship, in our friendship.
I also would like to say one of the greatest satisfactions in my life was in March of last year, when we managed for the first time to attract probably 20 blue sharks in the middle of the open ocean. Melesio, one of the fishermen, was looking at us in the water. I had just come out of the water. He turned to me and asked if he could borrow my mask and my fins. So I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So he's a massive guy. He's probably 6'3", and he's got huge feet, definitely larger than mine. And so I don't know how he managed to put my fins on, and then the mask, and he jumped into the water just wearing like blue jeans and no shirt in fairly cold water, probably 14 degrees Celsius, which is cold. And he was like probably free diving for the first time ever, trying to get down, trying to touch the shark, and he was really happy. And that was an amazing moment.
We have a just bit of a different story to tell about the fishermen, and they make a very good point. You saw in the movie a little bit about Playa del Carmen, where we have had a fishing problem. We've managed to mitigate that because most fishermen, like the gentleman Rodrigo and Jorge have seen, are really just interested in providing for their families, living a good life. It happens to be that that's what they're brought up to do. And there's not as many opportunities as we might have somewhere like this. But we have a fisherman who's in it for a different reason. He's in it for notoriety. He's in it for his name. He doesn't make money, he's got lots of money. He is a different challenge altogether because common sense and things that most rational people would agree to, he doesn't. So putting that one aside, we have found basically to a man that the fishermen are good people trying to earn a good job for their family. They're not out to kill sharks, they're just doing it because it's a useful way of making money. So we found them to be great allies and we need them 100% to be successful.
All right, thanks. So I would like to go ahead and open it up now for questions. So if you have some questions, please feel free to raise your hand. And we're going to bring a microphone over so that you can talk into it. And please don't be offended if Shay doesn't hand you the mic. We usually don't give it away because it's hard to get back. So he'll hold it for you. And here, we got one right up here in the front.
Hi, great movie. I'm actually from Mexico too, so I'm very proud and happy that this is happening. I just have a couple of questions. You say that you are all a group of friends from different backgrounds, and I don't see any mention whatsoever about the scientific community a little bit from you guys, which makes me want to ask if you've included ecologists or marine biologists into the equation of what you are currently doing, and also as in what are you doing to teach the fishermen, but also teach the tourism population, like the people that are into the tourism business, what's going on in our oceans.
Well, we have included the scientific community when it's been needed. We got this grant from the Mexican government that's after the film, so we could make a study and see how feasible it was to start a shark diving operation, well, a shark snorkeling / free diving operation. And part of the study, we handed in a 200-page study. It had the tourism aspect, the economic aspect, and the scientific aspect. And I think part of the nice thing about Pelagic Life is that there's a lot of people doing research, and there's people that they are doing it and they know what they are doing, and we're not trying to come in instead of them. We're doing something else. We're trying to help the local communities through tourism. And let me ask you guys a question. How many of you, after watching the film, felt the need to go and jump in the water in one of those places? Okay, so mission accomplished. You know, that's, like I said, we started as a group of friends in love with the ocean, going out, exploring, and wanted to share all the stuff that we saw. And every time somebody like us, somebody like you guys, go to one of these places, you're leaving some money behind in the local communities, and you're making people realize the value of these species, and that's helping preserving them. So that's what we are trying to do. Of course, when we've had some projects that need some scientific research, we've hired the people to do it, like scientists. But we're going for a different angle here.
So I'll take your question. So there's a slight difference. I'm with Saving Our Sharks, and we're more like the Aquarium in that we do all aspects. So we're focused on the scientific research to develop the understanding of the sharks. We're focused on the public outreach and education to teach the local population. We're working with the government, the business communities, the hotels, the dive operators. So we're essentially creating a program that everyone profits from. So when we look in the mirror and go, is this going to work? If we have any X in there, are the fishermen going to win? Yes. Are the local hotels going to win? Yes. Is the local government going to win? Yes. All of that for us starts with scientific understanding. So Pelagic Life is looking at cutting off the supply, right? Working with the fishermen to move lethal shark resource usage to non-lethal. Ours is really a little more, we were challenged a little harder. We were challenged to if we wanted to save the sharks down there, we better understand them, and there really hadn't been any research done in the Mayan Riviera on shark populations exclusive of the whale sharks. So we were given an additional task by the government, which was to do research. So in our case, that's definitely a key cornerstone to what we do.
All right, great, thank you. A question right here.
Yeah, it seems like the area with the best potential to transition those lethal methods over to tourism-based methods would be in Playa del Carmen. And I noticed in the film there was mention made of attempts there, and I was wondering where that currently sits. It looks like you guys moved on to a different topic in the film, you know.
Yes, please. I'll handle it later. Actually, that's one of the things we've been discussing about adding on a new version of the film, because just as we developed at the very ending of the editing and before the proper presentation in cinemas, there was a breakthrough with the people fishing the sharks in Playa, where we were able, well, not we, but Saving Our Sharks and the people dedicated to that specific problem in Playa were able to sit on the table and lay out a proper solution for this. And now the guys that used to fish those sharks are maybe not into shark tourism directly, but are now on board on protecting those sharks and fishing them at some other time of the year. So the sharks are reproducing during their time. The tourists are getting what they want to see, which is the sharks in Playa, in great conditions, hotels, restaurants, dive shops, etc. They're getting their share. And the fishermen have their time, and they have their time frame to do their fishing and their thing and continue to do whatever they were doing. That all, of course, putting that into the film, last minute, editing and everything, we weren't able to do it, but there was a very positive breakthrough in that area in Playa, and Russ has more information on that.
Yeah, thanks, Ro. Yeah, it was something that's happened over the last 2 years, and it's been an ongoing battle. We were able to, quite successfully through the early days of our initiative, convince and work with most of the fishermen, the rational ones, that they're not stupid. They're just challenged in having opportunities. So they realize there's a great opportunity here. If you fast forward to today, as I mentioned in the film, it's greater than an $8 million US a year industry from zero in 2008 for the Playa del Carmen market. So most of the fishermen have come on board and quite easily. The one gentleman has now come on board, but as I mentioned to you, it was never a money thing. It was a notoriety thing, and we just had to figure out how to communicate with him and get so we're talking the same way, same language. Once that was done, he's actually finally, and he was the hardest, but he's finally come along as well. So it's basically a win-win for everyone, and that's the only way that we got the deal done, really. Thanks, John.
Felicidades por el trabajo. I think it's an amazing project. I love the fact that it sort of started as something not intended, and then it turned into something, integrated, multi-layered. Like there's a lot of things going on. I would like to ask you, what's the response in Mexico? How many people have been involved, and if there are new projects coming out of this?
Do you want to know about the film or about like everything we're doing?
You talked about other people perhaps engaging in new projects of conservation and using it as, for example, as an economical incentive for the local community, and I think that's a beautiful solution. The problem today is it's money, and if there's a market for sharks, well, someone's going to fish it, someone's going to kill it, but you're turning that into another opportunity. You're turning that into, this project has that ability, and I think that's amazing.
I think the film itself, we can start there. Mexico is not a big market for wildlife film, for natural history documentaries. And I think it's the first time that a feature-length documentary with this level of production has been made in Mexico. It was screened nationwide in cinemas, which is a big deal because there's the market for this kind of content. It's not I could even say it doesn't exist in Mexico. And right now it's on Netflix, all along the Americas. I think for some reason it's not on in Canada, but from the US down, you can find it on Netflix. And so I think people is turning around to see what we're doing, to see that we all of us have to take care of this. And right now, this year, we started with doing open ocean safaris there in San Carlos, in that town. We call them safaris because we started we started calling it like a blue shark and mako shark expedition, or a silky and hammerhead shark expedition. And then if for some reason, it's nature and it's the open ocean. So if for some reason we didn't see a shark in that weekend, then some people would get really disappointed, even though they saw 3 blue whales right next to the boat and a school of 500 mobile rays jumping around and a pot of 200 dolphins. So that's why we changed the name to Open Ocean Safari, because it's like an African safari out there in the open ocean. And we started running the trips with all with the local communities involved. They operate the whole thing. We just bring them the people. And it's been a success. We've had people from Europe, from the US, from a lot of people from Mexico. Last weekend, we had this elementary school teacher from this little, small, poor town in the outskirts of Mexico City. It was the first time she ever got into a plane. And she had to ask for a loan from the bank so she could pay for it, even though it's not an expensive trip. And after 2 days out in the ocean, we got to see 2 silky sharks on the first day, and then 3 silky sharks on the second day. She was overwhelmed, and she was thanking us, and she was crying because it was the most amazing experience in her life. And if you go back to Pelagic Life 3 years ago, that was not our target audience at all. Like a lot of people from the diving world or from the conservation world would know us all over the world, but in Mexico, very few people, and it would be probably our friends and friends of friends who would know about us. And right now, after the film, and we're doing this thing with the Discovery Channel in Latin America, so a lot of people is seeing what we're doing, and they want to get involved and they're liking it. So the next week we have another trip with 10 people. So it's starting to move. I mean, we have this ideal $2 million budget so we can get some infrastructure to the fishermen and an operation center and some decent boats, because being out there in like 60 miles out into the open ocean in a small panga with no shade, I mean, you really have to love it. And in order to get some, like, a wider kind of people to come to the trips with us, we need to do some changes. And right now, we need the money. We're still looking for it, but in the meantime, we're doing these guerrilla kind of expeditions, and people are responding. And I mean, this teacher that she had never been on the beach, let alone the open ocean, and it was tough, and she loved it. So that tells me a lot. I don't know if you want to.
I'd like to add something on that, on the effect of the film, at least nationwide in Mexico, after the film and after we released it in cinemas, and people got to see that we actually did very little to make a change. We started getting calls of people, and you know, with networking and Facebook and everything, people were calling us like, we found a shark in Puerto Vallarta, what can we do with it? It's like, get some chum in the water and do it slowly, and you know, hotspots started appearing everywhere. Where there used to be nothing, people started finding things, you know? In Mazatlan, which is a major like sport fishing hub, people were calling us like, we got bait balls and we got marlins, and when can you guys come over, and what do we do, how does this go on? And we, through the film and through the reach that we had, because you can tell the story everywhere, but there's nothing like seeing it in a big screen, we got to a lot of people who started doing new stuff. The footage you saw from the crocs in Chinchorro, that is now, at this time, a year after the film was released, I'm guessing almost $1 million industry now on taking people swimming with crocs. After this film was released, we were the very first ones doing that. And now, you can't book a ticket to go see the crocs because it's packed year-round. The crocs are there, and they're selling spots for $4,000 or $5,000 for a 3-day tour. And that's the kind of effect the film has having in Mexico, and you know, for conservation and for us. And it's been really, really nice. It's very encouraging.
If you want us to go, Jonathan, just say the words.
I was getting into it, but you know, I think the automated system started to turn off lights. It is getting past my bedtime, actually. So let's take a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up here tonight. So we got a couple over there. There's one, looks like a blue shirt there, and maybe the other one after that.
I'm just wondering about the shark fin soup. It's so popular around the world. How do you discourage that? How do you get it off the menu?
That's a tough one. So the first answer, actually, it's not that popular around the world. There's only one culture that eats it. The rest of the world does not really imbibe. So but we won't pin them. The reality is that shark fin soup and shark in general, shark is toxic. It's full of mercury. You mentioned in the video, it's highly toxic. If you ate that all your life, you would be in deep trouble. So I think really what you have to do is, and I'll take a real get out of jail free card here. The future is the children. The children are the people who are going to grow up. They're going to see. They're going to make the changes. We are getting a little long in the tooth, and it's difficult to enact change at the levels we need. So probably in my life, you're going to see shark fin still exists, shark fin soup. But in the last couple of years, about 70% reduction in shark fin consumption in China. So it is coming down, or in Hong Kong, sorry. Information is power. We get more information about how toxic it is, how important the sharks are to the ocean. Logic will prevail. They will stop. But for the moment, it's very difficult because I did not a course, but I went up to Burnaby North High School. I talked to an Asian population there. their parents actually, most of them didn't really, the first gens, didn't really know what shark fin was. It's called fish wing and it has a bunch of different names. So they've never really ordered it as shark fin. They never really knew it was shark fin. So I think it's education is the key. The second key is that the young people of the world who have more access to information and more opportunities are going to be the ones that fix that for us.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you completely, Russ. It's about education. Just 2 years ago, we had Rob Stewart here and we screened the Shark Water film, which is a film that inspired Russ to start his organization. And now we have these two gentlemen here who've made a film that is now inspiring more people to go from taking sharks out of the ocean to going out and enjoying sharks alive. So, I think we're seeing a groundswell, a change here. And these are the kinds of things that we want to encourage. Let's take our last question.
That was going to be my question, actually.
Oh. Yeah. All right, so let's take another question. Okay. Yep, right here in the front. Okay, you have to give the microphone back when you're done.
Okay, for sure. Basically, my question is, how accessible is the area where you want to introduce the ecotourism? Like, because we know Playa del Carmen and Holbox and Cancun are huge tourist areas from Mexico. So in the film, I couldn't see really if that a village is like a tourist area, exactly what it is, how available it will be to bring, let's see, your project succeeds, and you will bring thousands of people, like what will happen after? And I just want to know if it's how is the area around? Because I really couldn't see it in the film.
It's part of the adventure, actually. It's a small fisherman town. You have to fly. The closest airport is La Paz Airport. La Paz is, so you can know, probably it's an hour drive from Cabo. And then you have to drive 3.5 hours more to the north and to the east. It's on the Pacific side of the Baja Peninsula. West, sorry. I'm a lefty, so it's west. And we actually don't want to turn it into another Cancun or another Playa del Carmen. And I think we want to attract people that can actually give some value to meeting the locals and eating the stuff that probably what we're doing lately is like we're taking a spear gun with us, and on the way back we try to fish our own food. And we want to keep it small, we want to keep it rustic, but it's accessible. But we just don't want to turn it into like another Playa del Carmen.
Just something else on that matter. We chose this area specifically, or this is where this is working for us, because this town already has basic infrastructure, because they already work with the gray whale tourism. So there's some hotels, basic but clean, nice. There's some restaurants, 2 or 3, maybe 4 restaurants, very basic, but again, clean, nice. You have seafood, you can get a burger, you can have some fried chicken. It's not, the desert. There's something there, and that gave us a huge head start when trying to get people there. We've been getting people there for the last year, and it's been working fairly good. It's not Cancun and it's not Playa. It's not a huge resort, but you get like a 10-room hotel, and there's another 8-room hotel across the street. So it's enough for now, and it should develop slowly, and we want it to develop slowly and stay, very, very adventurous.
Just maybe quickly on that note, doing our work down in Playa del Carmen and Cancun, where it is real easy to have just about anything you want in the world at your fingertips in 2 minutes. There's a time and a place, and there's also a template for those types of scenarios. So what's working for us in Playa del Carmen with the bull sharks and what's working for Cancun with the whale sharks is not necessarily going to work in Boca Partida or any of these places. And frankly, I don't know that we want it to. Our job is not to create a monstrous tourist resort. Our job is to protect sharks and to provide opportunities for the local people. And decide, selfishly, for us to find beautiful places to see pelagic creatures. So the template they're using is a good one, and it works well for certain areas, but it may not be the same one we use for other areas. So I think we'll see a little bit more exclusive, and maybe shamelessly, for those who are interested, I'm going to run a trip because I haven't been there yet. So I'm going to run a trip down with these boys really soon, and I'll post it on our website so we can see if any want to come, you can come.
So that was a great wrap up. Thank you very much, Russell, Jorge, Rodrigo. Thank you very much for coming here tonight and talking with us and answering your questions and our questions. I would like to thank all of you for coming here tonight and supporting the conservation efforts of the Vancouver Aquarium, as well as the conservation efforts here for Pelagic Life and saving our sharks. I'd like to thank IT Blueprint for sponsoring our event tonight, providing our complimentary appetizers, and bringing our speakers up here. So Jorge and Rodrigo they live in Mexico, and they were flown up here, and they've received accommodations while they're here for that. We hope that you're moved by the passion of our speakers today and filmmakers, and we hope that you'll consider making a donation to help protect sharks. And we have a donation table right outside in the gallery. If you want to stop by there and make your donation tonight, you can. Our next public program is on September 14th about radiation in our ocean. And I'd like to thank you very much and have a good night. And you're invited